In my last video blog, I mentioned how sometimes God will, if we're listening to Him, will sense that He's telling us to just let go of a sickness or an illness for a period of time at least, like He did with Paul, either because He has a purpose for it, He can use us in our weakness more than strength, or because it's just not possible for a healing to happen in this particular circumstance. That's not to be our default. Our default should be to aggressively come against sickness and disease, but there are times where He might tell us to do that. Now, the minute you say it's not possible for God to do something, it raises a lot of eyebrows. I got a question this last week of a person saying, I've heard you say in different sermons and different contexts that it's not possible for God to intervene in certain circumstances. And so they ask, if you believe that God's all-powerful, by definition, all things are possible. What does it mean to say that you're all-powerful other than that? So how can you say that it's not possible for God to do something? Now here's the thing. It's crucial that you understand that God, it's meaningless to violate the law of contradiction. If God's going to make a triangle, it can't be round. If God's going to make a bachelor, He can't be married. For God to create a this means He's not going to create a that. And so for everything God creates, there's metaphysical implications that go along with it that God can't avoid because it's part of the definition of the thing. So when God gives us free will, as I assume He does, because love without free will is meaningless. Free will is the ability to go this way to this degree and that way to that degree. And if God gives us this ability, then He can't revoke our ability to go that way to that degree because He doesn't like it. Because if He did revoke our ability to go that way to that degree, then it just becomes clear He didn't give us the ability to go this way to this degree or that way to that degree. So irrevocability is built into the very definition of free will. And the minute you understand that, then, and you look at the world and the flow of world history as the interfacing of all the free decisions that are made by human beings and by angels. And they intersect with one another in ways that no one anticipates. And every contingent fact of this world is in fact a manifestation of the confluence of all of those myriad of decisions made by humans and by angels throughout history. And when you understand that, then you immediately can understand how it is that there are situations where God can't do something, not because He lacks the power, but because He gave angels and humans the ability to go this way to this degree and that way to that degree. You also begin to understand why we can never understand why anything happens the way it does, because behind every particular contingent fact, good or evil, there's a virtual infinite chain of influential causes that have led up to that fact. And so you have to be omniscient to understand why anything happens the way it does, why I'm wearing this blue shirt and why there's this particular mug right there behind me and why you're listening to me right now. There's a trillion decisions that influence that, any one of which, if they'd been a little bit different, you might not be listening to me right now, or I might not be wearing this blue shirt, or that cup would be an orangutan, or instead of not orangutan, that'd be kind of odd. Well, it could be. Well, who knows? So anyways, I've addressed this before, but it bears repeating because it's something that is it's so important. Because if you don't say God can't intervene, then you have to say God just won't intervene. And if you say God just won't intervene, since everything God does is good, it must be good that He won't intervene. And now you got to say it's better that He didn't intervene than if He would have intervened. So it's better that this child got kidnapped and the Holocaust occurred and the Khmer Rouge massacred 1 million people and Stalin massacred 30 million people and this person's blind and blah, 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 blah. And that, folks, is an unsolvable version of the problem of evil. Sometimes God can't. It's not about His power. It's the kind of world He created, because every this is not of that, and a married bachelor is nonsensical, as is a round triangle, as is a revoked free will. Think about it. God bless you guys. See you around.